What about you, sir? Do you think the colored students will show up?
If I got anything to do with it, they won't show up. Well, I think it's a breaking point of the school integration. I just don't feel that they have a right to go to school.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I was in the National Guard unit at Dumas, Arkansas, and President Eisenhower federalized us. I was sent to Central High.
Units of the National Guard have been and are now being mobilized with the mission to maintain or restore the peace and good order of this community. Advanced units are already on duty on the grounds of Central High School.
I guess the only answer there is we was doing that because Governor Faubus was Commander-in-Chief of the Arkansas National Guard. And his sole purpose was for us to go up and keep the black kids out of school. I was raised without a prejudiced bone in my dad's body, and I just, to me, it was something that I didn't feel right doing it. I guess more than anything else, it was the guilt that I felt for my own people out there throwing rocks and eggs and everything else, and gained a lot of respect for the 9 kids that were integrating the school.
This girl here was the first Negro apparently of high school age to show up at Central High School the day that the federal court ordered it integrated. She was followed in front of the school by an angry crowd, many of them shouting epithets at her.
But the fact that knowing every day that they come to school, every time they left, they were in danger. There was a lot of hate. And sad to say, there's a lot of hate today.
I am often asked how I ended up at Central High School in 1959 by people who go, why bother? Or did your parents make you go? Or did Mrs. Bates insist? And I really have to say that as a child who grew up in a segregated Little Rock, my parents were very actively involved in the NAACP. I felt that I had a responsibility to try and do something to further progress for the race. And as a Negro child, that was very much a part of what I learned not only at home, but in my Girl Scouts and my Y Team at my church, that our people have been waiting for hundreds of years in this country to have an opportunity to be full participants in the society. And there was a very strong sense that the desegregation of schools was a very important step in the progress that people in our race could make, and I wanted to be a part of that. What really is striking is that there was so much drama, there was so much trauma, there was so much activity, there was so much to be feared. And when we re-entered in 1959, it is very clear that a new message had been sent out, so that there was no need to have security. There was no need to have guards on the steps. There was quiet in the school in the sense that we were in a new era, and the new era was that we were shunned. I can literally say to you that there were probably not more than 2 students in the 3 years that I attended who ever spoke to me. I have a strong admiration and appreciation for the members of the Little Rock Nine. I went to church with Ernie and Melba and Gloria and knew Kalata, and of course was at school with Kalata and Jeff. I understand what it means to have warriors in my race, but I also understand that there are people who are foot soldiers, and I believe that I was one of the foot soldiers. For me, the 60th anniversary has even more special meaning at this time in the history of our country, because it's important for our young people to be reminded why Little Rock 9 made the sacrifices that they made. It was important to understand that there were other people who made sacrifices also as part of the struggle. It's important to understand the historical context, but it's also important to understand why we can't lose hope now, to have better perspective, that looking back is not only a way to congratulate and to celebrate heroes, but looking back is also a way to help us understand how we can steady ourselves, because the journey that we've been on is perhaps a million-year journey for justice and equality.
One of the reasons I'm a park ranger today at Central High is because my father was there in 1957 as one of the Arkansas National Guardsmen. My father first told me about being at Little Rock Central High when I was about to start second grade in Wynne, Arkansas. And Wynne was just about to integrate their elementary school. And it was about 2 weeks before school was to start, and I was actually looking at a book my grandmother had just gotten from Saturday Evening Post that was a collection of Norman Rockwell paintings. And the painting I was looking at when my dad came to pick us up was the picture of Ruby Bridges, who integrated New Orleans Elementary School when she was in first grade in 1960. And in 1962, the year that I was born, Norman Rockwell painted the painting of her being escorted to school by U.S. Federal Marshals. And I'm looking at this picture, trying to figure it out, when my dad reached over my shoulder and put his finger actually on one of the marshals and said, "I did that. I escorted the black students to school." And then he went on to tell my brother and sisters and I that people are starting to understand. And he said, "I want you to know you can be friends with anybody you want to, that you can sit next to whoever you want to, and you can invite anybody you want to our house. People are people, they are not colors." I become a park ranger with the National Park Service, first at Arkansas Post National Memorial. And when a position came open at Central, I just felt I had to apply for it. My dad died when I was in high school. So as an adult, I couldn't go back and ask him the questions that I wanted to. What was it like to be there under 2 different sets of orders? How did it feel to guard those students against people that they may have grown up with, that may have been their neighbors? And when I first heard the story, my dad was the hero of the story. You know, he was a soldier and he was my dad. As an adult, I've come to recognize very quickly, probably even before I became a ranger, I understood the courage that it took for the Little Rock 9 and the courage it took for their families, their parents, to allow them to go to Central. Knowing the risk at that time, that most of the 9 were born around the same year as Emmett Till, who was murdered at 14 for whistling at a white woman. And now they had the courage to let their sons and daughters go to a school with almost 1,900 white children. And what if somebody said somebody looked at them wrong? Somebody whistled at one of their children. I'm sure they were terrified. I think we've come a long way, but when you're talking about equality and justice, it's like talking about a 90-year-old high school. You can replace the roof, you can fix the air conditioning, and then it's going to be time to fix something else. You're never done preserving that beautiful high school building. Just as every homeowner faces with their house, with the street department faces with streets and bridges, there's always one more pothole to be filled, one more bridge to reinforce. And equality and justice are the same way. We're never done, but we always keep striving.
My father, Attorney Christopher C. Mercer Jr., is the most magnificent man that I've ever known. Before, during, and after his passing, he is the most wonderful person. And his involvement with civil rights in general, particularly the Central High crisis, it shaped me in a lot of ways, because I got to be a part of this story long before I was a student at Central. And I wanted to go to Central because I'd heard these stories, and I've been volunteering at the historic site, and I was just like, okay, this is a part of what I want to do. Having him be a part of so many movements especially Central High School, and being a Little Rock native and Arkansas girl and a Southern girl, it just helped me appreciate my culture, helped me appreciate my state. It helped me understand that, like, the world is my oyster, but this is where my roots are. So this is a place that I want to nurture. This is a place that, you know, I'm proud of, I'm ashamed of, I'm happy for, I'm sad about. But with all of those things, like, at the end of it, it's a place that I want to improve and make better. The inspiration I have from integration, and specifically that of the Little Rock Nine, is that they taught us in so many lessons that they had learned before from their parents and other, unfortunately, some people who became martyrs of the movement. What they taught us is to never give up, because there are some people, and I feel like they're entitled to this opinion and this feeling, because it was a devastating thing. It was such a violent, aggressive thing, where some people felt like integration was the worst thing to happen to people of color. And I feel like what my father endured, what the Little Rock Nine endured, to say it's not the worst thing to reach for the best. And the best doesn't mean white. The best means I have access to everything I need to be the person that I want to be. And so being in the halls of Central, like, every day, there's so many entrances to the school every day. And I think about September 25th, 1957. I think about them being surrounded by the 101st Airborne. I think about their saddle shoes and their socks and their petticoats and their paperboy hats and their notebooks and their pencils tucked behind their ear. I think about them walking up those front steps. And I feel like integration for those who came before us and went through it, that was the opportunity to have access to those things. And it gave me the courage to say, I don't have to stop here. This is not the line of demarcation because of my color. I can go further and further and further and further and further. I can go as far as I want to go. I can go as high as I want to go. And nobody can stop me. Your mob can't stop me. Your governor can't stop me. Your mama can't stop me. Nobody can stop me from doing what I want to do. Knowing that you were going to be harassed and taunted and teased and violated and engaged aggressively every day, and you still showed up for what you wanted. You didn't show up for them. You didn't show up for the cameras. You didn't show up for the mob. You showed up for an opportunity to pursue your education. And I feel like that is a blueprint and a model for everyone to follow, and particularly people of color and people who are in marginalized, oppressed groups, to say you don't have to give up. Like, there is something on the other side, and you may not see it, because here we are 60 years later fighting that same fight, but we're a little bit closer. Like, don't give up, because somebody behind you needs that push. Somebody behind you needs that opening. Somebody behind you needs that inspiration to go on. And I'm that person that's behind them that says, I am here. I will carry the torch. I will carry it for as long as I can. I will hold it until the last breath exits my body, and then I will toss it in the air and somebody else can catch it on my way out. And hopefully it's a little easier for them. So I just thank the Little Rock Nine for never giving up, because they are the reason why the movement can continue to move.